This is Benchmark Happenings, brought to you by Benchmark Home Loans, with Jonathan Tipton and Steve Reed. Now your host, Christine Reed.
Welcome back, everybody, to another great episode of our podcast. And this one today, it's like, we always have different things on our podcast. And so today is really a special treat. And I have two individuals here with me today that represent the Mountain Home National Cemetery, which is really a national historic treasure that we have here right in Johnson City, Tennessee. So I want to welcome Sue Jehlen.
Thank you very much for having us.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you here. I know you're super busy. So Sue is the director for the Mountain Home National Cemetery. We're going to learn a little bit more about Sue later on in our podcast. And also we have Joey Stewart, who also works at the Mountain Home National Cemetery. Welcome, Joey.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for your service. We're going to talk a little bit about your time in the Navy today. So we've got a lot to get in on this podcast. So, Sue, give us a little bit of history about the Mountain Home National Cemetery here in Johnson City.
Well, I can take it back a little bit farther with the history of the National Cemetery Administration as it is today. We have 155 national cemeteries, and these all started during the Civil War because we actually buried our dead where they died. And we lost more soldiers during that war than any others. So President Abraham Lincoln charged the Army with accounting for our dead. So we had 14 cemeteries that started during that Civil War time frame, and then we've grown to where we are today. Mountain Home is a gem in the community. It started in 1903. There's a lot of people that know it's there because they have relatives that are interred, but there's a lot of people that don't know it's there. And it's unique because it's on a VA campus, the medical hospital, and it also has two sides. So a lot of people will think that we're closed to interments or burials. That's kind of a myth that we're dispelling by doing different things. But we have a historical side that opened in 1903, thanks to the Congressman Brownlow, that got the hospital open and having a cemetery next to it. And then we have the annex side, which is across the other side of the hospital. And we actually have a expansion project going on right now that's going to give us 3,200 more crypts, as we call them, for caskets underground, 3,200 more cremation sites, and 3,200 we've never had a columbarium wall for cremations. And we still have another 40 acres to expand down the road.
Wow. That's amazing. I did not know that. I've seen the project going on, when I go to the VA Mountain Home. And for those of you that, if you live here, I'm sure you've probably driven to the VA Mountain Home. It's beautiful. The campus is beautiful. So it's the buildings. If you're into photography, it's a great place to go and just focus on the corbels and things of the buildings and do photography as well. So I think it's French Renaissance style of those buildings. There was 36, and Congressman Brownlow, he was a representative here from the 1st District. So we thank him for getting this here in Johnson City, Tennessee. And,
absolutely.
And there's also, Joey, what's the monument there that we see at the cemetery?
Well, the Brownlow Monument is in the center of, the center of the historic section of our cemetery, and it's a tribute to him and his family.
Okay. And so is he and his wife buried there at that? Okay.
Yes, they are.
That is great. And I appreciate what you guys brought me today, a little handout about VA Mountain Home National Cemetery. And I also understand there's a book that has been written about this.
It has a lot of our notable burials, that notable people that are buried at the cemetery. We have 4 Medal of Honor recipients that are buried there, and others. especially during World War I to Korea and Vietnam. We had a lot of returnees they passed away in theater and came back and were interred at the cemetery. So all of those are in a small book of remembrance to them.
That's great. And I noticed that on the website, which I did not realize this, that you can actually have a tribute to your loved one who is interned there at the cemetery. And my dad's actually buried there. So he was a Korean War veteran, and Joey was very instrumental in helping with that. And so I think, you were talking about, thank you for getting the word out about this cemetery. And you're going to have all these additional areas to bury our loved ones who have served. So, Sue and Joey, both of you, so what are those qualifications that people who are listening today, what are the qualifiers for actually being able to be buried there at VA Mountain Home?
We try to make the burial side of it, because it's a really tough time when you lose your loved one. And we try to make that super easy for our veterans and their families. So as long as they've had an honorable, anything other than a dishonorable discharge, we have a little more benefits than maybe the hospital would for burial. And a key date is 1980. They have to serve for 24 consecutive months. Of course, retirees. And they can do a pre-need application and do their eligibility now if they'd like to, and have that letter with their DD-214 when they're working with a funeral home. It just gives them peace of mind that they know we're going to be here. And that's why I try to dispel the myth that we're closing.
Yeah, so glad we're getting the word out about that today. And Joey, how long have you been employed there at the Mountain Home Cemetery?
This November will make my 9th year.
9 years. And what's your official title?
So I am the automotive worker there and also the collateral duty safety officer.
Okay.
So my responsibilities include doing all the maintenance on our equipment and facilities, both here at Mountain Home and at Knoxville National, and all of our safety-related items, PPE, and anything that involves safety at our cemetery, I take care of. So
that's a lot.
It is.
Well, so what's a typical day in the life look like in Joey working in the?
It varies day to day. It's because in addition to those, I'm also one of our purchase card holders. So anytime that we need materials, supplies, spare parts, whatever, we have a process in order to do that procurement, and I do that as well. So,
and if we're shorthanded, he's out in the field and helping with excavating grave sites and doing those burials that we need to.
And so, and Joey, what I love about you, you're so professional and you're so approachable. You care, and you were very instrumental with my dad's burial. That was a really hard time for our family, but it was beautiful, and the ceremony was beautiful, and it's something I'll never ever forget. When we drove up and we saw the guns and the boots and the hat, and the helmet, and it's just so touching to have that. So it's a blessing. It's a privilege and it's a gift that we have that right here in Johnson City. So, and Joey, so you've also served in the Navy.
Yes.
So how long were you in the Navy?
I retired after 22 years. So I started. I actually enlisted in the Navy way before I was 18. So.
Sounds like my dad. He enlisted before he was 18.
So I started the delayed entry program when I was 16 and actually left when I was 17 and actually was on active duty when I turned 18 years old. So
wow. And you said active duty. Where did you go?
Started out in Great Lakes for Navy boot camp, left there, went to Pensacola, Florida, left Pensacola, went to NOB and did time there and went aboard 2 of our Navy's finest warships, 2 aircraft carriers. So,
wow. a lot of experience there.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. And we always say here at Benchmark, we have Ashley, Joey's wife, actually works here, but we have Ashley because we can have Joey. So Joey can do anything. So we love having him around. So thank you, Joey, for what you do.
Always.
So, Sue, tell us a little bit about your background. I know it's very interesting. You've moved quite a bit.
Yes.
And I just so appreciate the history and the background that you have with the VA. So share a little bit about that with us today.
So my first career was as a hairdresser and esthetician for 15 years. And unfortunately, I was disabled from that. So at 32 years old with 2 kids, what do I want to be when I grow up again?
Oh, wow.
So I started college at 34 with a 3 and 9-year-old, 7 years full time through my master's, and became a school psychologist in upstate New York, Western New York. We're from Rochester, outside of Rochester, and worked in the schools for 8 years, and then got moved to part time. That's a little tough when you're a single mom, and met a wonderful veteran that worked at the Labor Department in New York and asked if I had ever thought about federal service. So in 2009, his wife worked as a nurse at the VA hospital in Canandaigua, New York. I started working. My daughter got married that year. My son went to college. So I had an empty nest and I started working at the VA. And I worked on the Veterans Crisis Hotline for 4 years as a responder to veterans in crisis and in need. And then we decided to make a change. My dad passed away in 2011. He was World War II veteran. My mom and dad are both buried at Bath National Cemetery. So it's near and dear to my heart because I get to take care of them all the time wherever I go.
Yes.
And my husband's a Vietnam era veteran, so he served as well. We switched over to the cemeteries and we went to St. Louis for a year. That's where our training facilities are. And then I got moved as assistant director to Fort Logan in Denver, Colorado for a year. And then I got moved to Marion, Indiana, Marion National Cemetery, co-located with the VA hospital there in central Indiana. And then that was for a year. And then we moved to Rock Island National Cemetery, which is on the Mississippi. It's on the Army base that's there in Lifton, Iowa. That was for 3 years. And then we moved to Long Island because this grandma had an itch to be closer to the grandkids. And then COVID hit. But we were there for 2.5 years. And my husband and I visited Tennessee. That was probably the first state we looked at for retirement. And we were coming back for a visit, and I found out Mountain Home was open for a director, and I applied, and we've been here since May of 2022.
And welcome.
Thank you.
We are so glad that you're here. And like I always tell everybody that comes in, I said, welcome to free Tennessee.
Yeah, we love it. Absolutely love it.
It is. And this area especially, I think East Tennessee, and that's one of the reasons that birthed the Benchmark Happenings podcast, is just being able to highlight just all the great things about East Tennessee. So let's get back to the cemetery a little bit. So Joey, we were talking earlier, and you had mentioned I know there's some famous veterans that are buried there at the Mountain Home Cemetery. Tell us a little bit about the Erwin Nine. Is that a little bit about that story?
So we have one of the Erwin Nine buried at Mountain Home, and just this past week, we laid his wife to rest there. The Erwin Nine, of course, Miss Sue knows a little bit more about this.
And both of you can chime in.
But
absolutely, yes.
There were 9 service members from Erwin that were in World War II. They were all aboard different aircraft and were all shot down during World War II, and all ended up in the same POW camp in Germany.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So, and we're lucky enough to have one of those 9 buried at our cemetery. So
you think of the luck and how that would happen.
Yes. All from in Erwin, Tennessee. For those of you that don't know, it's a very small community here from Johnson City. And for all 9 of them to be in the same POW camp, Can't imagine what that was like for them, but then to have one of them there at the buried here.
And there is a book that was written about it. I'm not sure of the author,
Okay.
but I can get that information to you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we can put that in there, and any information. I actually went to the web, Googled. We always Google everything. There wasn't a whole lot of information about mountain homes, so I just so appreciate both of you here today, just sharing this beautiful, really national treasure that we have with us.
A lot of people don't realize they think a cemetery is off limits depending on their beliefs. People treasure it. This is a very highly valued veteran community here. I know because we have services for unaccompanied veterans that have no families. That's another thing that we do. But there's so much rich history at cemeteries, and especially national cemeteries, because you can see where they served. You can see if maybe they lost a child, in the 50s, 60s, 70s. We lost a lot of children then. There's just such rich history to learn about.
Yes. And so, Joey, what do you like best about what you do?
So, because I'm a veteran and retiree, it's just another way for me to continue serving. So, to come to Mountain Home and just walk the grounds and just to see your accomplishments every day is amazing. So.
And I think what I'm always so impressed with when I'm there is everything is so meticulously kept, and all the gravestones. I mean, there's just I don't know how do you do that? How do you have everything perfectly aligned, perfect distance? There's no variation. What's the process around that?
It's actually a very large process. So in each one of our sections, we have a control point, and and that control point has got an X marked on it, and that is a main guide point for setting up every one of the stones, and it correlates with the in-ground cremains, the crypts, everything, and it gives us a guide path. We set up string lines. And each one of the headstones is pretty much the same as military formation. It's just right dress. So no matter what angle you look at the headstones, they're all in line.
It is. And everything is just, the grounds are perfect. Absolutely.
We have a very unique situation in NCA, National Cemetery Administration. There are 380,000 VA employees nationwide, and we're 2,200 of them in 155 national cemeteries. When people think of Arlington and the straight headstones that are there in Arlington, the Army still runs Arlington and some post cemeteries. And we started them during the Army. They've moved over as a benefit under VA. We're very fortunate to have that. We have high customer satisfaction. We do surveys, even though it's a really horrible time and a grieving time for families. We have higher customer satisfaction than any government or private industry. Our last index was 97, and we've been on top of that for 21 years.
That is amazing.
And then internally, we have our own surveys that we do as well with families. And Mountain Home has won an award the last few years for customer service. We have a pride in that, and also process improvement. We always want to make sure we're doing what we're doing better and the best we can for our families that come there. And we actually have organizational assessment and improvement program. We do a self-assessment every year. We train all the employees on that, and that's to the grounds, to safety, to the headstones, to the interments, to our customer satisfaction. There's 123 measures. And we just had, we do a self-assessment every year. In October, we had a team that comes in every 4 or 5 years and just kind of looks at all that data and sees how we're doing. So we do have our undersecretary coming in March and giving all of our staff an excellence award because we did very well on that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So do you all ever have, with having this record of 97% and just the excellence and these processes in place, do any public companies or entities ever reach out to say, hey, we would like to learn from you of what some of these processes that you've put in place? Because my goodness, I mean, to have even your own employees rate you as excellent. And I would guarantee that you don't have turnover. And companies today struggle with lots of turnover. They struggle with employment dissatisfaction. So what is it, Sue? What's that? I know there's not a silver bullet, but what is it that you guys are doing that makes it so great? I
think it's our mission. And, we want to have that benefit for families at their time of need. Mm-hmm. So it's our mission. We talk about we only have one chance to get it right. And it's an honor. 75% of our employees nationwide are veterans or we're connected to veterans. I'm very fortunate that out of our 14 staff, there's only 2 of us that are not veterans, but we're both married to veterans.
That's good enough.
Yeah.
That's
so I think that means a lot to our community.
Yes.
And they care. Like I said, this is a very veteran-centric community and helping those veterans that are alive and those that are passing away. Like I said, the unaccompanied veterans. We do that quarterly, that ceremony, and we'll have anywhere from 2 to 4 veterans that we're honoring, and we usually get 75 to 100 people that come out to those ceremonies.
And also there is Memorial Day and Christmas. So tell us a little bit about that and how we're honoring the grave sites and our veterans during those really great holidays.
So every year now post-COVID, we have a Memorial Day ceremony. We usually have keynote speakers. We usually have a band that performs, and it's just for us, it is our Christmas. So that's our big time to shine. So it's
our Super Bowl.
Yes. So it's
yeah.
And anybody that's not been, I highly recommend coming. It's something very, very good to see. So
very special. And the flags are on all the graves. And then tell us about the wreaths at Christmas time, because I know we've participated in that many times. And
go ahead.
Wreaths Across America started when the company in Maine had many leftover wreaths. So they reached out to Arlington National Cemetery to see if they could use them. So we try not to say it's Christmas. It's an honor wreath, and it's to teach children and communities about their service to their country. We had 600 people out at the ceremony this year. So you can imagine the goal of the coordinator is to have one on every gravesite that the family wants it to honor them. People can donate. They go on the website and donate. So it's 2 times a year that we get to say those veterans' names that have passed. We've been there since 1903. There may not be any family left. So we kind of have a slogan, at least with our last undersecretary, that a veteran dies 2 deaths. Their physical and body death, and then when no one says their name again. So it's a way for those Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts to come out on Memorial Day and say those names when they put the flag on, and the same goes for the wreath.
That is beautiful. And I, our name is so special because we're all so created, and we're created with a purpose and a plan, and we're so unique and created in that image of God. And to say that person's name, I mean, I'm sitting here, and it really touches my heart, that person's name is said. Mm-hmm. So Joey, what would you tell young people today about let's talk about serving in the military, serving your country. I mean, there's just so much going on today and so much division. What would you recommend to a young person?
My recommendation is it's all about spirit of country. It really is. So, and being prideful of what you do. If you're not, there's so many people that serve in the military. They're like, I didn't like it. I hated it or whatever. It's you have the ability to choose what you do in the military and choose something that interests you. Me, I started out in naval aviation. That's what I wanted to do. And then got out of naval aviation and went in the Seabees. And
now, what is that?
So the Seabees were formed in World War II to help rebuild locations overseas because you couldn't take civilians into a foreign country and arm them because they would be known as guerrillas at that point. So the Seabees were formed to prevent that. So you could actually have armed tradesmen that were in the armed forces doing construction work. And I was a constructional mechanic. So, but due to qualifications and so forth, I actually spent most of my time doing convoy operations. So, which led me to spend some time in Iraq and Kuwait, and my last deployment was in Djibouti, Africa. So it's when the recruiter approached me about joining the Seabees, he had a very unique approach to it. He said, "Well, Joey, you're from East Tennessee." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You like to camp?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You like to shoot guns?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "What about off-road vehicles?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, that's what we do in the Seabees." So, and then of course, that's not what they do in the Seabees.
No.
But
the smart recruiter,
yes.
he knew what you liked.
So, but it's an experience. You'll build friendships and relationships that you will never forget. So,
absolutely. What are some of the things that you took away from your service and that just benefit you for life?
Experiences of everything that you do. Your because of the time that you spend away from family, it teaches you to cherish that time a lot more. The brotherhood that you form with the people that you serve with is unmatched anything else. So,
yeah, you're truly watching each other's back.
Yes,
in that service. So, thank you, Joey, for your love of our country. It's the greatest country in the world. We are the city on the hill, and so as America goes, the world goes. So we need people like you. And thank you, Sue. And so, Sue, what do you, from what you're doing, I can hear the passion in your voice, and I know that you love the veteran community. And so, what would you say about your role and what you do?
Well, I get to lead an awesome group of people at the cemetery. I'm honored to be able to do that. I'm honored to be able to take care of veterans. Like I can, you mentioned the legacy memorial that we have online. So I can post something on there. I don't get to see my parents that often at Bath National Cemetery, so I feel like I'm taking care of them. And I just absolutely love it. And this is a great community to be in.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I just so appreciate each of you for being with us today. And it was just such a wealth of information and just fascinating to learn more about this national treasure that we have here right in Johnson City, Tennessee. So, Sue, thank you.
Thank you
for being on today. Joey, thank you.
You're welcome.
we look forward to maybe talking again, get some updates, okay?
There's
thank you
always
both.
more information.
Always more information, and it's not closing. So everybody that's listening, it's not closing. There's room for our veterans. So, all right. Thank you both.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.